All right, welcome back to the show. Now it's time for Coffee Shop Q&A, and this is a segment where we dive right into mentorship. This is either a guest interview, a topic I've been thinking about lately and I want to share with you, or responding to your questions. Well, this week we have an excellent guest. It's the sales maven, Nikki Rausch, and she's a sales expert, a seasoned guru with decades of success behind her and a passion for the art of selling, and it shows. Nikki, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so thrilled to be here.
I'm thrilled to have you here as well. You're the sales maven. So how did you get that name?
Well, I have over 25 years of sales experience. And in addition to my sales experience, I'm also a master certified practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming. And if that is a new term to anybody listening or to you, it's really the study of communication. So I focus on the sales conversation specifically in my business and when I'm coaching.
All right. So, Nikki, you're speaking to several entrepreneurs here and people that are thinking about becoming an entrepreneur. Why is the sales conversation the most important part of the sales process?
Well, it's the most important part because really that's how you actually take somebody from that kind of initial introduction to you, or, maybe they've gotten on your email list or you've reached out to them in some way, but it's through the conversation that you lead somebody up to the place where you actually exchange dollars and services. Now, if your business is one where, you just have a website, people are going there and buying from you, like I'm not your coach for that. But most entrepreneurs are having some type of conversation with their clients, and that's the piece that I specialize on.
All right. And so not only do you specialize in the conversation, but you've branded a particular approach, which is relationship selling. And you actually have a book on relationship selling. Is that correct?
That is correct. And it's called The Selling Staircase, Mastering the Art of Relationship Selling. And I teach my signature 5-step approach that really leads people up the steps to, again, where you start from that first introduction to get to the place where you actually close the business and exchange dollars for services or product.
Okay, so Nikki, you mentioned sales as a staircase, and I'm pretty intrigued by that because, well, there's that whole saying that a lot of times people want to take the escalator when they have to take the steps. But you have found that this sales staircase is pretty effective. Could you talk a little bit about that sales staircase that you have and maybe one or two points that people should take away from the whole staircase in general?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So with the selling staircase, the idea is that it's your job to move a client from step to step to step. And you really are the person who has to take the lead in the conversation. And so the 5 steps in the selling staircase, the first step is the introduction step. That's where you're meeting somebody for the first time, or maybe you're introducing the concept of what you offer to somebody for the first time. And this could be somebody you've known for years. So in step 1, you want to make sure that you are coming across credible, that you are establishing that know, like, and trust factor. And then that leads to step 2, which is creating curiosity. And this is probably the most missed step in the selling staircase. Oftentimes people aren't really sure how to create curiosity about their business. And if you're not able to create curiosity, oftentimes people don't want to know more. So it's kind of like, oh yeah, that's what you do. Who else can I talk to? If you're in a networking event, or if you're even on the phone with them, they're like, yeah, not interested, right? So we've got to create some curiosity. And just one tip that I give around creating curiosity, just really quickly, I always say creating curiosity is the difference between how you call a dog and how you call a cat. And in the sales process, and I know that sounds a little crazy, but in the sales process, people who have what I call dog calling energy come across too kind of aggressive or too excited about something, and that kind of turns people off. Like, if you want to get your dog's attention, of course you're going to do something like, oh, come here, boy, come here. And dogs love that. Like, that's really fun for them, but people do not. And so when you're really excited to tell somebody about all that you can help them with, they get like, no, thank you. So instead, think about creating what I call catcalling energy, or here kitty kitty responses to standard questions because we want to draw people in. We want them to want to know more. We want them to ask us questions. So when you think about calling a cat, you do this little thing where you go, here, kitty, kitty, here, kitty, kitty, right? And that will draw your cat in. So think about when you are answering a question, for instance, like, how are you? Or what have you been up to lately? Or like, what do you do? You want to give enough of an answer for somebody to go, oh, tell me more about that. Like, for instance, if somebody were to ask me right now, like, oh, Nikki, what have you been up to lately? I might say, oh, I'm super excited because next week it's going to be announced that my latest book is in, 1,100 boxes that just got sent out to people. So it'll be a surprise. So that would allow somebody to go like, oh, well, what's your book about? Or why would somebody put your book in a box, right? So it allows for me to then start to talk a little bit about my business. And then for somebody to go, oh, so you're a sales coach. Oh, you help people with the sales conversation. I wonder if I could use some help with the sales conversation. And that leads us very quickly to step 3 in the selling staircase, which is the discovery step. And this is where it's your job to understand the client's need or their problem. And I just listened to one of your podcast episodes and you were talking about the 4-letter word that everybody needs to know, which is the need, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So in the discovery, your job is to really uncover that need and do it in a way that you ask questions that lead people to hiring you. So what I mean by that is the questions should be about things that you do. And so when you're asking your discovery questions, don't waste time and energy asking questions that really don't have anything to do with your offering. Now, it's one thing to yes, you want to get to know somebody and you want to establish rapport, but sometimes people waste discovery time by tell me your biggest dream and tell me where you want to be in 20 years and who do you want there with you? And you don't need to know that. At least I don't need to know that to earn somebody's business, right? So make sure you're using that time strategically and asking the right questions that lead people to hiring you. So for instance, I only ask questions in my discovery that are around people's sales. Do you know how to create curiosity when you're talking about your business? Yes or no? If the answer is no, there's something I can help you with, right? And then once you've done a great discovery and you understand, yes, I absolutely have something that will serve this person in some way, then we lead to step 4, which is the proposal. The proposal, that's when it's your job to clearly lay out the best option for that client. So in the proposal step, I always say, make sure you recommend what you know the client needs, not what you think they can afford. And there is a difference. So unless they've flat out told you here's my budget or here's what I'm willing to spend, you need to make sure that you're recommending the best solution that's going to meet their problem or need. And it isn't based on price.
Sometimes one of the mistakes that I see early stage entrepreneurs make is they'll try to assume that they can either upsell or add more dollars to a proposal because they think that the customer can afford it. But what you're saying is always try to find the right fit for the customer, whether that's your most expensive or your least expensive. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, and it's okay to recommend a range of products or services. If maybe you want to give them kind of a, small, medium, large type option, if you're going to do that, I will say, make sure you always start with the most expensive option first when you're laying out the proposal and then work your way down. That's known as top-down selling. And this is because as humans, we don't like to have things taken away from us. So it actually makes sense to start at the top and work your way down, because if you start at the bottom and try to work your way up, it does sound like you're trying to upsell people. It does sound like you're trying to just add dollars onto their bill, which can be a turnoff. Now, with that said, stay in integrity. And just because you have $100,000 option in your offering, if they're a client that really would be served by your $20,000 option, don't recommend the $100,000 option, because then you are out of integrity. So keep with what's the best solution for them. And it's okay to, talk about the everything that you can have, as long as it it's not just like overkill, or it's not something that's just completely outside of what's going to serve this client.
Right.
And so then once you've laid out your proposal, you're on to step 5, which is the close. And the close means that you actually have to get the language out of your mouth. And this is where a lot of times salespeople fall down, is they lay out a proposal and then they're like, okay, so, let me know what you want to do. It's like, nope. When you lay out a proposal, you need to issue closed language. And closed language, an example of that might be, so based on these options, which is the best fit for you right now? That's closed language. And you got to ask it. And then when you ask it, you got to zip it afterwards. Like, you're not allowed to speak until the client speaks next. Like, give them time to process your proposal. Give them time to think about, how does this relate to me? And then let them respond to whatever they're going to say next. So those are the 5 steps. Sorry, go ahead, Joey.
No, I was going to say, I've seen you talk about this where you basically need to close your lips and count 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. Why is that so important? What can happen if you speak after you've essentially laid out the request for sale?
Well, what can happen? Well, one of the things, there's a term for that, which is called selling past the close. Sometimes as salespeople, we get nervous and we're like, so here's my proposal, based on this, which do you prefer? And here's what I would recommend in the book. And then we just keep talking. So that's called selling past the close. And what can happen is, it doesn't allow for the client to take that time to process and make a decision. And so you can actually talk people out of buying it from you, or you can cause them to go into overwhelm. And when a client goes into overwhelm, they often won't make a decision, or they'll revert back to the safest decision, which is, I'll just maintain status quo. So my answer is no.
Yeah.
Right. And that's not what we want. We want to, the reason most of us do what we do is we want to be of service. We want to help people get, whatever it is that's going to make their life or their business better. And so it really is our job to allow for that silence to happen and just wait. And it can feel painful, but it's okay. And for the client, it can feel like, oh, you're being really respectful and you're giving me time to process this information.
That's really good. So, Nikki, you're an author, you're a speaker, you work one-on-one and you do group coaching. I have to imagine that one of the questions that you get from time to time, and I know we're coming to a close here, so I want to be honoring of your time, but I'm sure you get a question of, how do I charge what I'm worth? What would be your response? What's a story? Is there a client that you've worked with to help them get to that point of charging what they're worth? What tips can you share in that as we bring this to a close?
The one thing I will say about charging your worth is, and I know this to be true because this has happened in my own business, that you have to charge what is going to make sense for your business, for you to be able to sustain your business, grow your business, and do it in a way that it's going to allow you to still be in business in a year or in 2 years. And so when you don't charge with what you're worth and you go with these prices that are way too low, what happens is the client rarely will value your work. Like I have found personally, and I've found this with many of my clients too, and they're always surprised when they start raising their prices. But I always say the more you charge within reason, but the higher my prices go, the more results my clients get, because they have more skin in the game. And they're like, well, I'm not going to just take this advice that Nikki gave me and be like, oh yeah, whatever. It's like, no, I paid her good money. I'm going to implement what she taught me. Oh yeah, and now I'm getting results, from it. And so being able to have the ability to put out pricing that makes sense for your business and makes sense for your expertise, because that's the other thing. A lot of times as entrepreneurs, we discount all of our expertise that we show up with. I mean, I don't know about you, but, I've been in sales for 25 years. I know a lot about sales conversations. Plus, I went through master certification in neuro-linguistic programming. That was a huge investment of time and money on my part to go through. So I have to show up from a place of like, I really value these skills, and I want my clients to value them too. So be willing to bump your prices up. And I'll give even a tip of how to do this. And this was a tip a coach gave me years ago, is she said, if you know you're underpriced, but you're struggling to like raise that price, she's like, then I want you to book 5 clients at whatever your standard rate is right now. And as soon as you book 5 clients at that rate, your rate goes up. And then you book 5 more, and then your rate goes up. And I actually recommend this with my clients too. Sometimes I say 3 because sometimes we don't need to book 5, right?
Yeah.
So you book 3 of these clients and then bump your price a little bit. And your pricing should be just slightly outside of your comfort zone. Like it should feel like I got some, for me, when people pay me money, I want them to pay me enough money that I feel pressure to deliver. Like, ooh, I better be really good.
Right.
And then I perform at a higher level for them.
Right. Well, Nikki Rausch, it's been a pleasure to speak with you here with Coffee Shop Q&A. Nikki's the sales maven. You can reach out to her at yoursalesmaven.com. Nikki, do you have any parting words? I know you want to offer something to our listeners. What do you have to say in these final few moments?
Well, here's what I will always say is the way that you move somebody through the selling staircase is that you issue invitations every step of the way. So that means you invite people to the next step. And really, when I use the word invite, I can also easily replace it with ask. So make sure you're asking your clients and inviting them to these next steps and inviting them or asking them for the sale. That is so crucial. So closing that sale is so important in order for you to prosper and for them to get what it is that they need or want. So I do have an ebook that is a gift that I'd love to give your audience, and you can download it by going to yoursalesmaven.com/BLC, right?
That's it.
Super easy to get. BLC, yoursalesmaven.com/BLC.
Thank you so much, Nikki. Enjoy the rest of your day. And thanks for stopping by the Business Life and Coffee Show.
Thank you.